Warning, this video may contain content that may not be suitable for children or anyone else that is easily offended. Strong language, graphic content, nudity, bad jokes, and a possible idiot, aka myself, may be featured in the following clip. Viewer discretion is advised. And is not responsible for any damages that you receive watching this video. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Zims, and welcome to the Creepy Murder Room 1046. I'll plan it out better in my head. But this video is by BuzzFeed Unsolved. So if you guys haven't already, be sure you swoop down in the description box, click on that link, go watch the videos in entirety, because I'm going to be pausing and stopping and talking through the whole thing. Thank you guys so much for the 3,000. I'll keep saying thank you guys so much, because I really appreciate it, man. If you guys haven't already, man, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, my name is Zims, and welcome to the Crow's Nest. But for now, let's get it. Go.
This week on BuzzFeed Unsolved, we covered the creepy death of Roland T. Owen.
Roland T. Owen.
This one really gives me the willies.
Gives you little goose pimples?
Yeah.
Little goose pimples.
I read about this one at night. Much like some of you watched this at night, and I was not a fan of some of the small details. There's things in this that just...
Rustles your jimmies. Ruffles your feathers. Ruffles your feathers.
Ruffles or rustles. It could be either.
Is it
I
Ruffles?
think it could be rustles.
I think it's Ruffles.
Well, rustling, you could like rustle through the brush.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, I'm Ruffles.
On Wednesday, January 2nd, 1935, around 1:20 p.m., a man calling himself Roland T. Owen checked into the Hotel President in Kansas City in room 1046. Witnesses said he was aged anywhere from 20 to 35, with brown hair, a scar on his scalp visible above his ear, and a cauliflower ear. He was nicely dressed in a black coat.
He had a cauliflower ear. My man was fighter, bro. He did some kind of mixed martial arts, or he got into a lot of fights, bro. You just don't get cauliflower ear like that, bro. He was whooping some ass back in his days, bro. Jiu-jitsu or something. He knew something. Cauliflower ear.
Bellboy Randolph Probst helped Owen to his room, where he reported that Owen seemed to have only packed a brush, comb, and toothpaste. The maid, Mary Soapdick.
What's her name?
Oh God, I know what she's a maid. Her name is Soapdick.
I'm trying to...
What a really funny big laugh you got out of that. Look how happy you are. Oh man, what a gem of comedy we've mined here today. The maid, Mary Soapdick, said Owen allowed her to clean while he was in the room, but asked that he not lock the door on her way out because his friend was about to visit the room very soon. Soapdick said that Owen kept the shades tightly drawn and the lights off, with the exception of one dim lamp. Other staff members who entered the room also mentioned this detail.
I don't want to be in the room when they're in there. That's scary.
Yeah.
I imagine him just sitting
He was a secret agent
in the corner, just a shadow man. Clean it. Clean the room.
I think you're getting Anton Chigurh vibes from this guy.
Fluff the pillow.
According to the maid Soapdick's statement to the police, she felt that Owen was, quote, either worried about something or afraid.
100%. He had to be worried or afraid because, for one, he packed a brush, a comb, and a toothbrush. His little essentials. He didn't really bring anything, which means either one, he was on a run from somebody, or two, he was going in hiding. I don't know. Somebody was after him, bruh. And I'm pretty sure if it's unsolved, it had to be somebody with a lot of power, because your case just don't be unsolved like that. You don't pack that light just to be standing there for that long. But okay.
End quote. And that quote, he always wanted to kind of keep in the dark. End quote.
He did
At 4 p.m., Soapdick returned with new towels, finding Owen laying on the bed, completely dressed, in the dark, with the door unlocked. She also saw a note that read, quote, Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait. End quote. It's weird, right?
Yeah. I would not go back into that room.
If you were the maid?
No.
Yeah, I think that's a good instinct to have. If you see a guy laying on a bed in the dark, awake, just like looking at you, I think that's your cue.
Yeah,
The
I couldn't do
next
it.
day, on January 3rd, Soapdick came back to clean the room at 10:30 a.m. She noticed that the door had been locked from the outside and assumed that Owen locked it as he was leaving the room. However, Owen was sitting inside, again with the lights off, which meant that someone else had locked the door from outside the room.
So who locked
While
it?
Soapdick was still in the room, Owen answered a phone call and said, quote, No, Dawn, I don't want to eat. I am not hungry. I just had breakfast. End quote. Repeating, quote, No, I am not hungry. End quote.
What hotels allow you to lock a room from the outside?
This
Yeah,
hotel.
no.
It's weird.
That is
I would
weird.
imagine you could just call the front desk and say, hey,
I'm locked in my room.
let me out of here.
It's just my thought is, who is this person that's locking him in the room, or who is he waiting for that he's sitting in obedience in the
And
dark?
who's
Well,
who's
this guy's
Don?
a weirdo to begin with. He's got weird friends.
Okay, I guess that's fair.
Weird attracts weird.
Soapdick came back around 4 p.m. to deliver fresh towels. she heard 2 male voices from inside the room.
Must be Don.
When she knocked, she heard a rough voice say, quote, "Who is it?" End quote. When she explained that she had fresh towels, the man said, quote, "We don't need any," end quote, even though there were no towels left in the room. During the night, a woman staying in room 1048 would report hearing loud voices, both male and female, cursing on the same floor. Though, there was apparently a party going on that night in room 1055. Now things begin to get very strange.
Okay.
The next morning, on January 4th, around 7 a.m., the hotel phone operator noticed that Owen's hotel room phone had been off the hook for a while without being in use. So, she sent the bellboy Probst upstairs to 1046. Despite the locked door having a "Don't Disturb" sign, Probst knocked a few times and heard a low voice say, quote, "Come in, turn on the lights," end quote. However, the door was locked, and no one was getting up to let him in. So after knocking repeatedly, Probst said, quote, "Put the phone back on the hook," end quote, assuming that Owen was drunk. Around 8:30 a.m., about an hour and a half later, the phone was still off the hook, and another bellboy, Harold Pike, let himself into the room with a passkey. Using only the light from the hall, the bellboy Pike observed that Owen was in bed, naked, and seemingly drunk. He also noticed that the bedding was darkened around Owen. The phone stand was kicked over, so he fixed it and put the phone back in the receiver.
They went in there and they saw this person on the bed with dark stains all around them, and were like, "Chill. Those are your sheets.
He's obviously making himself into a Sunday. Nothing to see here.
Right.
Let's go back down to the front
Don't
desk.
just leave. Stupid."
Minimum work requires minimum duty, bro. Bro, freaking, yo, that's crazy though. But my thing is, if 2 people come in there, right? They said Don went in there and it was a female voice, but then again, it could have been a party. But if you're room 1048 and 1055, that's like way down the hall. Unless them walls are super thin, it probably was that room that was right next to you, which is 1046. I don't know. I think maybe he was in deep with the mob or the government or somebody. He was somebody important or somebody that did something they wasn't supposed to be doing. They had to come back and get him. And I think when he said, "I am not hungry," I think that was a code name for something, or who knows. He said, "Yes, I am not hungry. I had breakfast. I am not hungry." Or unless I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not in trouble," or something like that, or who knows. But my thing is, if you were that scared, you wouldn't be letting people in your room. Like me personally, if I was on a run from somebody, I wouldn't keep letting the maid in my room. I wouldn't let anybody in my room. Like, I'll keep them like, "Oh, yeah, just leave by the door, I'll get it." You know, I wouldn't want people coming in because you never know who's who, you know. But let me know down in the comment section what you guys think and what's your guesses on this so far.
Approximately 10:30 to 10:45 a.m., the phone was once again out of the receiver. They sent the original bellboy Probst to resolve the situation. When he opened the door, he stumbled upon a truly horrific scene. Here's his statement to the police. Quote, "When I entered the room, this man was within 2 feet of the door on his knees and elbows, holding his head in his hands. I noticed blood on his head. I then turned the light on. I looked around and saw blood on the walls, on the bed, and in the bathroom.
Oh, they bleed him.
This frightened
Hey, beat
me,
him.
and I immediately left the room and went downstairs." End quote.
And it seems like everyone kept checking in to be like, "Let's make sure nothing horrible is happening here." "Oh, seems like it might be. We'll give it another hour." And then an hour later, "Okay, yep."
This
everything's
murder's
fine."
not ripe yet.
This
Not ripe
murder's
for the plucking. Also, the way they found him,
Imagining that is truly horrifying.
he said he was within 2 feet of the door on his knees and his elbows, holding his head in his hands.
Like,
No, not like that. He's
Yeah.
not taking glamour shots.
nice of you to come in. I'm dying.
Owen was discovered with extensive injuries. He had been tied up with a cord around his neck, wrists, and ankles. It appeared he had been tortured. Blood had even gotten on the wall and ceiling above the bed.
I'm a little tired of people being so aghast that blood is on the walls and the ceilings. Of course blood's gonna
Yeah.
get everywhere. There's a person is beating the shit out of someone and
just-
stabbing them.
It's also, I mean, come on, it's a visceral thing to imagine that someone's getting beat so heavily that blood is splattering everywhere like a Tarantino flick.
Yeah, well,
That's true.
That's what happens. If you put your finger in a cup of blood and just went, there's blood on the ceiling.
Wait, what?
He had been hit repeatedly on the head and his skull was fractured. He'd also been stabbed in the chest several times.
Jesus.
His lung was punctured. There was bruising around his neck that could mean he was strangled. Remarkably, Owen was somehow still alive though. One of the detectives to arrive on the scene would ask Owen about anyone else who had been inside the room.
Come on, bro.
Owen responded, quote, "Nobody," end quote.
Oh, come on, bro. They're gonna kill you anyway. Just tell them, bro. I mean, it's gonna make it worse, but they're still gonna try to kill you, bro. Like, I'm like lost, man. Because the first time they came up there, he was in the bed. So my thing is, was he injured that whole time and they left him there to die, and then they came back to try to finish him off, but they still didn't kill him? Or is it just like, who keeps leaving the phone off the hook? You got injured, so you're saying you put the phone off the hook and then sat on the edge of the bed while you're bleeding? Or did somebody trying to help you and they put the, like, I don't, none of this is making sense to me. Why does the phone keep coming off the hook? These are really bad murderers, bro, or he did it himself and he took the phone off the hook.
Although he was hardly capable of talking and not fully conscious. He explained, quote, "I fell against the bathtub," end quote.
Come on, bro.
Hell of a fall.
Yeah, right?
So in this scenario, he falls against the bathtub, rolls over into the bed, and then
Yeah.
starts bouncing up and down so the blood splatter goes onto
Yeah.
the ceiling and walls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And probably bouncing on the bed so hard that he hits the ceiling a few times and breaks all his bones.
Fractures his
We need-
skull.
Yeah.
You know, I bounced my head off the bathtub and I thought I'd go for a little bounce in the bed.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And
When-
tied himself up somehow?
Facts.
After
We
this
need
brief
Lieutenant Joe
exchange,
Kenda.
he was completely unconscious and was taken to the hospital. According to a doctor, the injuries on Owen's body had occurred 6 to 7 hours prior to Owen being discovered.
It's a long time to bleed.
Yeah, it is.
That means that by the time when they first went to go check on him, when the phone was first
He was
off the
bleeding.
hook, he was already injured at that point. He was already bleeding out. And still said, "Come in, turn on the lights." Unless, of course, it wasn't him. It was Don waiting to do more murdering.
Detectives
true.
found no weapon, nor any of Owen's belongings in the room, therefore removing suicide from the equation. 4 fingerprints were found on the phone stand, potentially from a female. Owen would die after midnight on January 5th at the hospital. When Owen initially checked into the hotel, he mentioned he was from Los Angeles, but Los
Hey.
Angeles authorities were unable to find any record of a Roland T. Owen, bringing into question whether that was the victim's real name. His body was placed for viewing at Melody McGilly Funeral Home. As the story spread, more and more people began reaching out to Kansas City authorities to see if their missing loved one could be Owen, to no avail. Next, police focused on the mysterious Don,
There we go.
that Owen referred to several times while at the hotel. Don was also conceivably the man with the deep voice that the maid heard through the hotel door. Nevertheless, the police's search returned no results. Owen's upcoming burial was announced by the Journal-Post on March 3rd to be in a potter's field. However, the Melody McGilly Funeral Home received a call from an anonymous individual who said they would send the money necessary for providing Owen with a proper funeral.
Somebody knows who
Yep.
he is.
Mhm.
And my suspicion, what if it's Don? Here,
And
because like
Don is a very tough love kind of guy.
I suppose, I mean, there's 2 reasons why he would not give up his killer, right? Love, or maybe he was being entrapped somehow. Like maybe
Yeah.
there was some kind of leverage against him.
Facts.
You think this was a lover's quarrel?
It could have been.
I don't think
Why
that.
would he pay for his funeral if he killed him? Or, like, and if it wasn't the killer who's paying for the funeral, why wouldn't that person just step forward and be like, yeah, that's fucking Jerry?
Right.
Yeah.
The plot thickens.
It does indeed.
This is a thick-ass plot.
This one's thick,
Thick.
Plot is thick as hell.
juicy. This is a juicy peach.
Oh,
Fatty.
juicy peach, all right. And I got juice running down my chin.
Ooh. You a freak. But no, but seriously though, that is true. Whoever made that anonymous phone call knew who he was. I think it was deep ties with the mob. I'm gonna go with the mob, bro. That's just my thing on it because it's like, hey, I know who that is. Forget about it. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for everything. Don't worry about it. Yeah, see? Like it was that kind of like murder going on, bro. And I think whoever called wanted him to at least get a proper burial. I don't think it was nothing. It was just business. That's why he said nobody, because he probably just had to take what was coming to him, bro. He probably did something, probably broke some kind of like street rule or regulation or whatever he did, and then deal with the consequences, bro. So I'm glad they didn't come in the room. Going off of what Ryan had said, I think it was true. I don't think it was him saying, hey, come on in, because if he came in the first time he was unconscious on the bed laying flat, I think that was a moment where he could receive the stab wounds and they left him to die, but they found out he was still alive, and they came back to finish him, and they beat the brakes off of this dude and then got back up again when they thought he killed him, and he was rested on the front of his bed, and they took him to the hospital where he died later on. I wish I could know more about the story, but unfortunately we can't, but that's just my take on it.
On March 23rd, money, bundled in a newspaper, was delivered to the funeral home from an anonymous sender. Funeral
Bundle.
flowers were anonymously arranged with the Rock Flower Company, along with a card that said, quote, "Love forever, Luis," end quote, placed on Owen's grave.
Yeah, I'm just going to start sending flowers to people's funerals and say, love forever, Luis.
You should just say love forever, Shane, and a picture of yourself. Like that.
But then people are gonna ask me questions like, "Why'd you do that?" And I'd say, "It's a funny joke." And they'd say, "This is a funeral, you know."
That'd be messed
Forward
up.
about a year and a half later, in 1936, a friend of Ruby Ogletree found an American weekly piece chronicling the Owen case. Upon looking at the magazine, Ruby would correctly identify Owen as her son, who left Birmingham in 1934.
Oh,
Owen's
snap.
actual name was Artemis Ogletree, and he was only 17 years old.
Sounds like a Harry Potter boy.
Artemis Sogan.
Sounds like a little Hogwarts student.
Artemis
Ogletree?
Sogatry.
Oh, okay. I thought you were referring to the context of the case. It sounds like the story of Harry Potter.
No, things turned out better for him.
Yeah, I think he went on to have great adventures. And
Yeah, he wasn't brutally murdered in a hotel room. That would be a rough end to that tale.
Ruby
Facts.
Ogletree, his mother, had actually received 3 letters from her son in the spring of 1935.
Oh.
However, these letters were delivered after Owen's death and were typed. According to a sensational newspaper account of the murder case, this was especially suspicious because Artemis didn't know how to type. This article also reported that the letter's tone was, quote, slangy and unfamiliar, end quote, to
Mob.
Ruby Ogletree.
Is it weird back then that you could just pretend to be someone?
you could still do that today.
Nah.
I bet you I could
It's-
check into a hotel right now and say, my name is Ricky Goldsworth.
But then
Nope.
they're gonna say,
ID.
"Oh, do you have a credit card, sir?"
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, yeah, this is my my friend. I'm just putting it's just a deposit,
That's
right? You're
not gonna
gonna
fly. They're
charge.
gonna
No.
put handcuffs on
Yeah.
you right away.
Facts.
Where'd you grow up, Ricky Goldsworth?
Oh, I grew up down the road.
Where? No. What city?
Oh, New York City.
You grew up in New York
This is
City.
happening in New York now.
What's your mother's name, Ricky Goldsworth?
Lucy Goldsworth.
What's her maiden name?
Lucy Gold.
Crumbling.
Well, I wouldn't stumble like that. I'd have a prepared response.
Yep.
Firing him off.
I'd be firing him off, and I'd be like, "What's the fucking holdup? I'm trying to check into a room, and you're giving me a goddamn inquisition? Is this how you treat all your customers?
All right.
Who do you think you are?"
That's fair.
Huh?
Okay,
and I
that's
poke him in the chest like this. Huh,
At this point,
huh,
I'm giving
Buster?
you a room. All right? You
Watch it, pal.
You win. You win, Ricky.
After some time, it was revealed that Artemis Ogletree had also stayed at the St. Regis in Kansas City with another man, possibly Don. In the early 2000s, Dr. John Horner, the author of an exhaustive account of the murder case published by the Kansas City Public Library, received an out-of-state call about Artemis Ogletree. The caller claimed to find a box containing newspaper articles about the Ogletree murder in a deceased elderly person's belongings. According to the caller, there was something else in the box, something else that had apparently been referenced in the newspaper articles. Unfortunately, the caller did not say what that item was. After that, the case would have no further revelations and would disappear into obscurity. And with that, let's get into the theories. The first theory is
All right, let's
rather
get it.
simple, that the man referred to as Don beat Artemis Ogletree to death in room 1046 and acted alone. As mentioned before, it came to light that shortly before his death, Ogletree had stayed in a different Kansas City hotel with another man, possibly
Okay.
Don. Don was also conceivably the man with the deep voice that the maid heard through the hotel door. But even if this theory is true, the police were never able to figure out who Don actually was. The second theory is that the unknown Don didn't act alone. This theory relates to an observation by Charles Blocker, the elevator operator the night of the murder. His observation also perhaps sheds a little light onto who Don could be. The night of the murder, Blocker saw a, quote, commercial woman, end quote, going to the 10th floor. The elevator operator estimated that the woman was 135 pounds and about 5.5 feet tall. She
Okay.
had dark hair and was wearing a, quote, coat of black Hudson seal or imitation Hudson seal, end quote.
What is the commercial? What's
yeah.
a commercial woman?
She
Is that
looked
a
like she was dressed in
prostitute?
very nice clothing.
Oh.
So they called her commercial woman.
What?
Anyways, I didn't make up the name. That's what they called
She
her.
looked like the Pine Sol lady.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, she was hanging out with the Brawny guy. It was
She was
her.
next to a big, tall, bald man in a white T-shirt.
Yeah, it was her, Brawny, and Mr. Clean. They all went and they just went off on little adventures.
And
Blocker
Jemima
claimed
too.
this woman was looking for room 1026 to meet a man she was unable to find. It's possible that this woman was looking for Ogletree and had mistaken room 1046 for 1026. This commercial woman was also seen with a man from the 9th floor, a man that the elevator operator said was the same height and weight as the woman. Some speculate that this man could have been Don. If you'll recall, there were fingerprints, potentially from a female, found on the phone stand, and a woman staying next door in room 1048 reported hearing loud female and male voices cursing. so it wouldn't be unreasonable to suspect that this commercial woman and the man from the 9th floor could have been responsible for what happened to Artemis Ogletree. However, there is nothing official on the woman or the man beyond what little is on the internet and my own personal speculation.
So my thing is also, so if they found her fingerprints on the phone, maybe she was trying to help him after all, but she couldn't do nothing to help him. Or maybe that was his wife and the dude was just taking her to say goodbye before they killed him. Maybe they used her as like bait to get him to open the door and then barge in and to kill him. But I don't know, I think a lot of people may have something to do with it. Cause I think those little them maids and stuff should be under investigation too. Cause that maid went up there, Soap Dick went up there a lot of times too. So who knows? But it could have been disguises too. You know, disguises wasn't that much unusual back then. But then he said, "No, Don, I'm not hungry." So Don, I don't know. Because Don could either be a suspect or it could have been somebody that was helping him at the time. And I think whoever that Weiss girl was the one that left the flowers. Some John Travolta movie type shit going on right here. Let me know down in the comments which this is like interesting because it's just like it doesn't make any sense. I felt like at the same time, female was trying to help him because she kept taking the phone off the hook. If her fingerprints was the only one on the phone, she kept taking the phone off the hook so they can come find him, right? I guess, but I don't know. Who knows? What was the point of taking the phone off the hook in the first place? Like, what does that do?
Third theory comes from many sensational articles published in the following years that suggested Ogletree was killed for being unfaithful to his fiancée. I'd like to call to mind the announcement in the Journal Post that Ogletree would be buried in a potter's field. The announcement that appeared to prompt an anonymous caller to fund Ogletree's funeral. According to a sensational article published in the Newcastle Sun called Mystery Murder in Room 1046, that sequence of events went a little differently. The article states that a woman called the local paper to say, quote, "You have a story in your paper that is wrong. Roland Owen will not be buried in a pauper's grave. Arrangements have been made for his funeral." End quote.
I'm gonna start using it.
Poppers.
Great.
Well, just a poppers as sort of a
Poppers.
descriptor. Like if I get a subpar salad,
Oh, this is a pauper salad.
I will not eat this popper salad.
Or if you
Popper.
get like a hotel room that just has a view of the parking lot or the freeway, I'm not gonna sit in this pauper's hotel room.
This
Front desk,
poppers.
yes. I will not accept this popper's view.
This is Ricky Goldsworth. You know what the deal is. Do you want me to come down there again? Didn't think so.
Man, that guy's scary.
Yeah, he's really scary.
This is a
When
Poppers
asked to
channel.
identify herself and what actually happened to the man still known as Owen at the time, she replied, quote, "Never mind. I know what I'm talking about. He got into a jam." End quote, before hanging up the phone.
Mob.
At the same time, a man called the funeral parlor where Owen was held and said, quote, "Don't bury Owen in a pauper's grave. I want you to bury him in Memorial Park Cemetery. Then he will be near my sister. I'll send funds to cover the funeral expenses." End quote.
These people hate poppers.
I think maybe that may have just been slang for the time.
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, it seems, unless these two people just love saying poppers. Either way, the more important detail to mine from that is
Sister's
the fact
grave.
Sister's grave.
Did they look into the cemetery and see?
Or
what
about,
kind-
we're gonna get into that.
Great.
later. Well, kinda.
The man apparently explained that Owen had jilted a girl he was engaged to, and that in room 1046, Owen the man and the jilted girl had a, quote, "little meeting," end quote. Before hanging up, he said, quote, "Cheaters usually get what's coming to them," end quote. Shortly after, the Rock Floral Company received a call asking for, quote, 13 American Beauty roses sent to Roland Owen's funeral, end quote. The voice added, quote, "I'm doing this for my sister," end quote.
These poor people at this funeral home are just trying to make a nice little occasion for this brutally murdered man. And they have just this cartoonish cast of characters calling them up to deliver these grisly, grim messages.
playing-
If I'm working at that home, I'm getting fed up.
You want to come do the job? You want to do my job? How about I be you and you be
Show
me?
up. Why don't you bury them, asshole? Stop just calling me. I'm busy.
It's fucking annoying.
You know how hard it is to reconstruct this man's skull?
Other than that,
I got
the
another
mysterious
theory.
death of Artemis Ogletree has been left to collect dust on the shelves of investigators, with no other possible leads or clues. To this day, it is unknown what truly happened in hotel room 1046. Was Ogletree held prisoner? Was he actually punished for cheating on his fiancée? The case will unfortunately remain unsolved.
So my thing is, all right, going off of theory 3, right? He said hey, he's not going to be buried in a pauper's grave. I want him buried next to my sister. And at the end, he said, this is what happened when you're a cheater, you right? So that can mean two or three. That can mean many things. Cheat at what? Did he cheat? Did he cheat the boss? Did he cheat gambling? Did he cheat, somebody out of money? Like, what did he cheat on? Like, it didn't say that were cheaters. You know what I'm saying? You could cheat at anything. He didn't specifically say women. So, but if it was a woman, right? He said, I want him buried next to my sister. So is it to the point that the jilted girl and the guy came over there to kill him to teach him a lesson? Or did the girl that he cheated on kill herself or somehow get murdered or something, who knows? Because he said he's going to be right next to my sister. So did he mean right next to my sister as in my sister's grave, or right next to my sister where my sister lives? You get what I'm saying? So I don't know. It could be one or two things. Maybe he cheated on her and she killed herself and they want to get, blood for blood and kill him too. Or she got cheated and he cheated on somebody's sister that was a big mob dude, and he had to get rid of him in honor of his sister. But who knows? That's my theory based on it. Let me know what you guys think. I don't know. It was way back then. I mean, it's not, I could have my dates mixed up, but I'm pretty sure mob stuff like that was going on a lot back then. They fake names and all that stuff. Like, you're not going to find out who it is because for one, they got the juice, and for one, half the time the police was working with them. And you're not going to just send a newspaper full of money to somebody you hate and make sure you get a proper burial. It was, like I said, it was just business. Like, if it's just business, you're not about to just superly disrespect them like that. You got what was coming to you, and then they tortured them too, which means it was personal. So it could be, I think I told you guys, anytime it's strangulation or you get stabbed multiple times, it's personal. It's always personal. So it had to be somebody that he knew. But if you guys enjoyed, man, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. My name is Zips, and welcome to the Crow's Nest. This video is by BuzzFeed Unsolved, so you guys may have already. Be sure to shoot down in the description box, click on the link, and watch the videos in entirety, because I was pausing and stopping and talking through the whole thing. Thank you guys so much for the support, man. Keep doing what you guys are doing. The videos will keep coming. 5K is almost there. Let's keep going. But again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.